Today we have Ryan on the left and Dylan on the right advising us on this property. Go ahead, sir.
So, I would say if you're going to do crops, water management is not going to be a big issue unless you have erosion. And temporary erosion isn't going to be a bad deal, especially if you're going to repeatedly crop the area. Because if you're going to repeatedly crop the area, you're going to be plowing it up. And you're going to be fixing the erosion that's happening there. If you're going to, as far as the types of crops, it all depends on what the types of crops. If you're going to do flowers,
Vegetables and flowers to begin with, and later on getting into more cash crop like corn.
Right.
If you see the gentleman behind, DLF Properties, he owns 10 or 15 properties all around.
Right.
You can see 4 feet to 7 feet high corn in his property. Very experienced individual. He's done a lot of good work.
Yep.
But I think to come to that level, it'll take a while with all these thickets and trees and.
But yeah, it's all depending on what your, I guess, end goals are. As far as water, capturing water, it's going to be pretty expensive to build structures through here to hold the water. And even when you build the structures there, once they get full, they're not going to stop the water. They're going to start flowing over. Basically, what you're doing is just capturing the water temporarily. Is what you're doing. So it's really all kind of all depending on what your ideas are. If you need water or if you don't, if you don't need water, I'd leave this alone. That way you're not backing water up, because once you back water up, it's gonna
flood the place.
Right, it's gonna create more wet spots.
So I see wet spots all over. This morning I was there going towards the north eastern side. There are a lot of small wet spots.
Right.
I mean, this is summer and I can see very squishy spot to the point that even the skid steer can get stuck in there in summer, which is surprising. So there's no water shortage here.
Right.
It is just like, how do I harvest the water? That's the question.
Well, in those areas, there's not much you can do about it. That's just kind of how this property is. It's a clay soil. So that clay actually holds the water a lot better than sand. And the water's not infiltrating as fast as it would on sand. So there's not really much you can do about that, other than coming in here and doing like precision land leveling, and that's going to, in the end result, it's going to cost a fortune to do that. So in reality, it's probably not economically feasible to come in here and
do the land leveling, right? Because I see from that corner down to that corner, 21 feet difference in elevation. That's what one of the hydrologists told me.
That's what we're looking at here. I mean, I'd say that's about probably 656 feet elevation. I mean, there's 40, so that's 16 feet difference from there to there. And even when you go further, I mean,
it'll be even.
I mean, so yeah, 21 feet is not stretching the truth.
But then how are the neighbors able to do such good corn cropping? I'm sure their property also slopes to the right.
Well, I mean, even if you look at this right here, that's theoretically pretty flat, this entire area. And so they've picked out areas that are flat where they can manage the property. And once you get a good stand of corn like they have, that slows down a lot of the water
flow,
and everything. So
I mean, that corn is like very strong, and they are like only 6 inches from each other.
Yep, and there's the roots and everything holding everything together. So
yeah, that's my fear. If I clear out the grass as rain falls, I will have a lot of erosion.
You will create a problem, yes.
Yeah.
Especially if you start like clearing out all this here, you clear out that, you're gonna have more erosion as opposed to if you clear out this area in this spot.
Okay.
Yeah, technically this area through here, I would say it would be the easiest to manage and maintain.
Which is that side.
Which is, well, we're
sitting
right here.
Yeah, we are sitting here. This is our entrance.
Yep. So basically from this tree line right here, these trees, I'd say you could just make a pretty well circle like that.
So pretty much from these trees all the way till the end.
Yep.
All the way. Yeah. Not on the other side, like where there is a swale.
So you might could do some right here. That might be pretty manageable. But once you start seeing where these little V shapes are coming in right here, that's showing water flow paths. Is what that's showing. And that's showing a little bit more steep of a slope, and those are going to be a lot harder to maintain once you have the ground disturbed and not actual grasses and trees holds
So
it
the
up.
right side of the property, as we face it, is no. The left side is usable. The right side, where the swale is, that's kind of like a junction. And after that, maybe we can use this section.
So the northwest portion would be a good spot, and then I'd say the middle towards the east
Okay.
would be a good spot.
But this side is also very squishy.
And that's just because it's so level. The water doesn't really have a place to go. So it just sits there, and then it slowly infiltrates.
Okay. Okay.
The same reason you're seeing it over here in this area. It's kind of pretty flat for the most part, so it's just going to stay there. It's not going to flow off.
Yeah, it's flat on the other side, but as we come to this corner, it slopes rapidly.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying this little corner right here, I probably wouldn't do a whole
Do
lot
anything.
with.
Okay.
And you can even see it looks like these are old terraces built along here back probably in the 40s or 50s.
Okay.
And that's indicative of erosion was there at one point when they were cropping this.
Oh, so they tried to crop this, but
I'd
because
say
of
this
the erosion,
whole-
they just gave it up.
I'd say this whole place was probably cropped at one point.
Yeah, when I was walking there, I could find like there were terraces on the ground. So the terraces are still undisturbed.
Yep.
So somebody was doing something with it before they let it go fallow and with the cattle kind of eating.
Right. So basically what happened then was, I imagine this used to be a cotton farm. Cotton prices got really low in the 60s and 70s. And people probably just turned it back to a cattle farm. They just let it go, let it grow up in grasses. And they just left everything like it was.
And since then, it was just like the cows do whatever they need to do, and rest is just nature.
Yep.
Yeah, because even this will get washed out. I'm going to put plastic on top of it.
But this probably won't wash out that bad because there's not a very, very steep slope. Once you get in these steeper slopes over here, that's where you have to have a concern with.
Okay.
But this one right here, I mean, we could get probably a 4-inch rain and you probably wouldn't have any problems with it.
Okay. So your recommendation is to do agriculture in this section, which is left of the property as we face it. And
I guess
that's it, right? And then maybe a little, this way.
So there we go.
Yeah. So this section, which is like the high-lying, and you can see like nice yellow weeds there. Because they're very consistent. Whereas other places, all a mishmash of all species. And then on this side, we could potentially do that corner because of a little bit of flattiness, although it is lower compared to the that end.
Right.
Okay. But what would you recommend in terms of crops and things like that?
I don't really like recommending crops because as soon as I try to recommend something, the market falls out on it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Market keeps like a stock market, right? It's just
there's an old saying. It basically said, if you want to be a gambler, be a farmer.
Oh.
Because that's what they're doing. They're gambling.
Okay.
They don't know what the market's going to do. They're just going to try to predict, hey, this is going to be the best crop to grow this year. If the market falls out, well, that's their gamble.
Yeah. Last year corn prices went up, so DLF went and did all corn this year, hoping to kind of cash in, but who knows. Okay. So anything else that I need to stay away from? Like right now, I'm clearing this driveway. I'm clearing some of the sections, especially removing the honey muskeets, which are very difficult to remove. I've done research on University of Texas, A&M, and multiple colleges. They have all these papers.
Right.
What they're saying is it can never be eradicated. You just have to manage it. Keep cutting it.
Yes and no. I mean, depending on what the treatments you do, I'd say probably 5 to 10 years, if you're managing it right, you can basically prevent the mesquite from coming back.
Okay. This corner, I cleared out one mesquite 2 months ago.
Yep.
I'm already seeing growth.
So if you don't get the actual root out, if you just break it off, it's going to come back. The root is down about 18 inches, and so you have to get down below that root. That's what I like to call is the brain.
Yeah, I've managed to pull some of them out in the slushy area, but here the roots won't come out.
Yeah. If it's too hard, if the ground's too hard, you will not get it out.
And I tried using triclopyr, aminopyrrolate, and chloropyrrolate, which is a recommendation of A&M University and New Mexico. I was able to finish that tree there. You see, that thing is gone. But on that side, I couldn't take it out. even though I sprayed it,
Yeah.
it came right back. And this morning I went in and saw a thick root.
Mm-hmm.
So I bagged it again. But in the process, I'm compacting the soil.
Right.
And I'm creating a new problem now
Right.
in trying to pull out the honey mosquitoes. Right?
Yeah, it's a never-ending battle. I mean, if you do something for one concern, you're probably going to cause another concern. But it's one of those things where if you're going to turn this into an actual commodity crop farm, you're not worried about compaction right now because you're going to plow it up and plant something. So you're going to remove that compaction at some point. So it's all kind of your end goal.
My near term is only vegetables and flowers because commercial farming is very expensive just to buy those equipment and things like that. I'm going to just do. So would you recommend, I mean, directly the soil will become concrete in a month or something, very, very hard.
It will, yes.
So the vegetable roots won't penetrate.
Well, they will once you get them growing. I mean, you'll plant those in the spring when it's nice and damp and everything. And then they'll have enough root system that once we get into the hotter days, they're actually penetrating lower. And they will penetrate the soil.
Okay. Like I already missed this season because it's already May and then all the neighbors' crops have already started coming up. So next year I will start in end of March. That's when this gentleman here, the corn guy, did. I planted some roses. They are all dead. I planted a peach and a pear. They are all dead. So when honey...
That's where on those, the new plantings, you're going to have to maintain those and water them. Probably at least once a week, if not more. Because I know you're saying there's plenty of water around and everything. But if it's something like this, I mean, the moisture's gone in this soil.
Right, it's already gone.
And so you have to continue to water. Especially new plantings, new trees like that.
I mean, this year we have been lucky. Every week we are having rain. But yet those plants went away.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, they are like this high, like 4 or 5 feet high, and they still went away. They are not tiny saplings.
when you got young trees like that, they got to really get the roots established before they can start maintaining like a life on their own. You got to do a lot of management with them, so a lot of watering for the most part.
So water management, if I had to dig a pond, where would you recommend?
Let's see. I would recommend.
Yeah, this is the road. Yeah.
So, how big of a pond do you want?
Maybe half acre, 1 acre.
Half acre to 1 acre. I mean, I would say somewhere in this area probably would be a good spot. I mean, I calculated before I came out here. There's from this pond right here. There's about 40 acres of drainage.
40 acres of drainage into that pond.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you move up a little bit, then you're probably gonna get about 30 acres through here. If you come up here a little bit further, if you dig one, I mean, that would be a good spot there. There would be another good spot somewhere in here. You're looking at probably 10 to 20 acres for each one of those.
As the water shed. Okay.
Yeah.
But this is the best you're saying?
This would capture the most water.
Most water. So if I had to do cropping here, and then I have to spend a lot of money pumping water there.
So if you're gonna dig this for irrigation use, you're gonna want it bigger than a half acre, an acre.
Couple of acres?
Probably it's probably gonna be more like 5 or 10 acres.
5 or 10 acres. Okay.
Because what you have to remember is whenever you dig these ponds, first off, when you dig them, you want to dig them as deep as you can. The deeper you get it, the less evaporation. Because the larger the surface area, the more surface there is for the sun to hit and more evaporation loss. That's why this guy that farms around you, he's actually built some pretty big ones. I don't know if you've ever seen them.
No, I'm not.
But you can go on like Google Maps or something like that and you can see them if you look around your property. And they're pretty big. And so what you're thinking about is during the July, August, or hot periods of time, you got to think about not only the evaporation loss, but what you're pumping out. And so you're going to start losing a lot of elevation in that pond if it's not deep enough and if it's not big enough.
Okay. So 5 acres. An acre costs $12,000 to $15,000. Yeah.
The irrigation, these are called irrigation reservoirs.
Okay.
They're not very cheap to build at all. I would say, just estimations, probably a 5 to 10 acre one might cost $70,000 to $100,000 to build.
Okay.
And that's not including all the pumping equipment and the irrigation.
And that'll last for about 20-25 years, right? I mean, that's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I would say probably 20 years.
After that, the silt starts accumulating. So what if I like converted this swale into an irrigation pond?
You could,
Good, right?
but it's, like I said, you'd want to have to remove all these trees, and then you're also going to want to have to dig it deeper, because I mean that's probably only 5 feet elevation difference right there.
Yeah.
So if you just impound it right here and just flood it, that's only 5 feet that you're going to gain of water. So you want to dig it at least another 5 to 10 feet deeper to get 10 to 15 feet of storage.
Oh, so 15 feet deep here is required because the slope here is only 5 feet.
Right, right.
Or rather, difference in elevation is only 5 feet.
Yes.
Okay. Actually, I dug a pond recently here, a small one, but then it doesn't look like that's doing much, right? It's only got a little bit of watershed there.
Yep.
You see that? Oh, you cannot see it, but from that angle, right next to the barn, I dug a pond, but it's not going to do much good.
Right.
Yeah. So here, or here, or here, here we have. Here, if I do it, I need to go 10 feet or more than that.
I'd say at least 10 feet.
At least 10 feet. Okay.
If you're going to do irrigation, I'd go as deep as you can. Some of those irrigation ponds, I mean, they can be 16 to 20 feet deep.
But then they have a gradual slope, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I'll kind of draw out. This is how our ponds are built. Now this is just a typical livestock pond, which it translates to an irrigation pond. But, so this would be the dam, and then this into the water until you get to your depth. That's a 3-to-1 slope.
3-to-1 slope. Okay.
And then you want a flat bottom, and then this will eventually come out to natural ground over here.
Okay. So I have a small pond there, as you can see in the picture. Two small, one in the border and one in the interior. And I have tall grasses sucking away all the water, and along the banks, honey mosquitoes have taken over. So do I need to redig that pond then? Because they're pretty much like obstructing any kind of flow.
I'd have to go take a look at it and just see what's actually going on. Really, I don't think there's really flow obstruction occurring. It's probably just those trees are probably sucking up the moisture. In my experience, if you ever have a pond or a dam, you need to keep it free of trees. You do not want trees growing on it. Not only will they suck out moisture, but they'll also, if you have a tree growing here, all the roots are coming down through here, and all it takes is the roots come like this,
And the dam breaks.
and water can seep through and find that root, and it just comes to the dam.
Okay. I mean, I didn't want to cut down those trees because very risky going with the skid, and if I could fall into the pond. So I didn't cut those things. I'm just leaving it as it is.
I mean, if you're going to rehabilitate it, my suggestion would be to have a dozer come in, have him remove the dam, remove all the trees, and basically rebuild it.
Rebuild the dam again.
Yep, and take all the vegetation off of it.
A dozer, okay. Any which way, it's a lot of work. Whether I rehabilitate that or dig a new one.
It is.
Probably, would you say digging a new one is more financially effective?
They're probably both going to cost about the same. Because the old one, you already have the material there that they can use. But they're also going to tear it down and put the material back. Whereas this other one, they're going to go out and push material from upstream to build the dam. So they're going to actually go find the material to build the dam.
But when they dig the material, won't they use the same thing for the dam? They will, okay.
But over here, the material's already dug for them. They already have the hole. They just got to clean it up a little bit.
Right,
So they're not have to find as much material as they would on this one over here.
Can dozers work when there is water? Like, when there is water right now, even it's summer.
So they usually drain it. It can be a little bit damp for them to
Oh, so
drive
they get a
across it.
pump and then drain it out?
Well, what they'll do is they'll actually basically cut this dam. They'll cut a trench through the center of it and let the water flow out.
Okay.
And if they need to, they will pump it.
Actually, I don't see much of a berm or dam there.
Okay.
From the surface, there is water down, but I don't see much of a dam there.
Oh, okay.
So which means there is nothing to, in order to drain from below, they have to pump it out because there's no gravitational
I mean, they could.
benefit.
They could still dig a trench with the
Oh,
dozer.
they can.
Yep.
Okay. Because there is enough slope on this side, so they could probably
Right.
route the water here. Okay. So from a conservation perspective, what are the principles? Like, what do you want me to follow?
Really maintain erosion and keep good vegetation on the soil.
What is good vegetation?
Right now, I mean, this is good vegetation right now.
Yeah, this is awesome vegetation, except I can't eat it. So-
Right. I mean, this is for livestock.
Livestock, yeah, exactly.
I mean, anything that you're gonna plant to a commodity crop for human consumption, you're not gonna have vegetation. It's gonna be bare ground until you have something growing on it.
Yeah, I heard like use more of the canopy crops that will basically not let the weeds come up. That's what I've been doing in my reading.
Right.
Most of my knowledge is from reading, not really practical experience.
So once you start this project, I guess since you've already used chemicals, you're not opposed to using chemicals.
I'm not opposed to using chemicals, no.
I would suggest the first thing you do once you plow it up, you're going to have weeds come back quite a bit with all this vegetation here. There's probably a massive soil bank or a seed bank in the soil, and so once you disturb that, there's going to be a good growth of those seeds that finally have a chance to germinate. I would go in there and I'd round up the entire place once you have some growth.
Yeah, I don't like Roundup though.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, I've used specialty chemicals like triclopyr and aminopyrrolate and chloropyrrolate because they are recommended to be not dangerous to humans, whereas Roundup is known to cause lymphoma and cancers and things like that. So the modern chemicals are less invasive on the human body.
Right.
So
I mean, but that's about the only chemicals that I know of that would actually kill everything.
everything, yeah, because actually the triclopyr won't kill grasses.
Yeah.
It'll only kill mosquitoes specifically because engineered to produce it from that genetic pool or whatever. Yeah.
Right. But I mean, that's what I would do if I was going to try to get it. I mean, to get it in his shape where it's just corn coming up, it's going to be multiple years of cropping it, weed control, and to get to that sooner would be to eradicate everything that's there.
Yeah. So in the interim, till I get to that point, so what do I do? Every year I plan on, mechanically cutting out the mosquitoes and applying specific chemicals just on the foliage, not broadcast, but just on hand applied. Anything else I should be doing? Because I'm not going to get it to that level anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, you could do cover crops. That would help weed suppression.
Like wheat and
It would be wheat, barley, oats, turnips, radishes, different things like that.
radishes. Okay, because they also have nice canopy. That
Clovers.
Clovers again are only for animal consumption, right? Radishes are for human consumption.
Turnips. Yeah.
Turnips and wheat, and I plan to do winter wheat this time for the first time.
Okay.
If you see those grasses, each one of them has like 100 seeds on them. So all those things are going to come back next year unless I do something. Even if I do something, they will come back coexisting with the wheat. So then what do I do other than using Roundup?
There's not really much.
Okay.
Because the bad thing about it is this is ryegrass that you see with all the seeds on it that's turning brown. And if you have that coming up in your wheat production, and you harvest it all, and you take it to the mill or wherever you're going to sell it, they're going to dock you for all that rye seed because it's considered a weed, and so that'll make your
Wheat non-usable.
well, they'd have to clean it and do a lot of work to it, and so it brings the cost down a lot.
Price. Wow. Okay. So there's no easy way, huh?
No, there's not a.
I mean, nobody has touched this place for 40 years, right? I mean, they have been only doing cows here.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's not a magic bullet that's going to turn this place overnight into a good.
No, I might have cows, but that's only for 2 or 3 acres. I don't want to spend 84 acres on cows. I mean, it's a gold mine, basically. It's like a lot of fertile soil. We have to do something with it. That's my goal.
Right.
And then what about soil amendments? What do you want? I mean, what can you recommend to amend it?
If you're going to leave it in grass, some of it, I wouldn't
Touch
apply
it.
anything. Because these are mostly native grasses. They don't need nutrients or anything. If once you're starting planting corn and vegetables and everything, you're going to want to take a soil sample and send it off to a lab, and they'll tell you what kind of nutrients it needs per crop. because each crop needs a different types of nutrients.
And then we apply, not
And
just
apply
NPK it across the board. No, right?
No, I mean, they may suggest just nitrogen. They may suggest all three of them. They may suggest that and sulfur and magnesium and some micronutrients.
Okay.
It just whatever that soil test comes back and kind of tells you.
So if you had to put cows, what would be a good place to put them? Sorry, I'm asking many questions, but you have been so, helpful here.
So if I was going to run cows, in conjunction with your cropping, I would say this area probably is going to be a good area if you fenced it off, something like that, because they already have a water source.
Yeah, it's thick jungle there. Cows can't even peek in there. I had tough time getting in.
They will find
Oh,
it.
they will?
Yes.
Okay.
Trust me. If you had a broken wire along this fence line, they will find it and they will get out.
Okay.
They're notorious for finding holes.
Okay. So that area would be good for...
Yes, if you're going to try to use this as crop and this is crop up here, this already has a water source. I mean, you might could put some over here where it's terraced, since there's a water source over here.
Okay, so cows here, and then this is all crop and crop. Okay. Any recommendation on where the living quarters should be? I mean, I was thinking just this because so close to the road, but just whatever's convenient, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I would, in my experience, farming is a lot easier in squares or in polygons, I guess. Whereas if you built a house here and you have a driveway, now you're farming around the structure and everything.
Okay. So
whereas if you left it somewhere right here, then you have this big square right here that
for the tractors to
can
go
back
and mow
forth,
and
yes.
dig and till.
You're
And,
not avoiding obstacles.
okay, yeah.
That's the biggest problem I see in people that move out here is they want to be off the road, which trust me, I want to be off the road too. So they'll build a house back here.
Now
Then they don't like a straight road, so they want to build a road winding like this. And then they want to fence it for cows or something. I'm like, well, you have a road. Do you want to open gates twice to build a fence, or it's just it's aesthetically pleasing, but it's not practical for farming and ranching.
Oh, that's a very good point, right? Because for the machinery or even humans to move, you need good place and not navigate around the road and
Yeah, the straighter you can make it, the better.
straight.
So if it was me, I'd probably, if you're not going to use that barn, I'd probably just tear it down and I'd build a house right here, because there's some good trees around it. That's already growing and established.
Right, so they can provide some of the wind control.
Right, and you could build a house there and have a nice shade tree in the backyard or front yard, and not have to wait for a tree that you plant to grow and everything. So,
Good point.
and plus you'd also want it close to where you're going to build a barn.
Yeah, or maybe I could put in a house right next to that tree
next to
cover.
that pecan tree over there, yes.
Because to me, these tornadoes can be dangerous. So the trees would actually provide a natural barrier.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of, I don't know, I have honey mesquites and I don't see one of them here. Are they bodeaux or I don't know what they are.
You probably have bodarks,
They-
and you probably have honey locusts.
They are like oval shaped leaves, pretty big, this big. So are they, what breed are they? I have a lot of them near that water pond.
They could be bodarks, they could be Bradford pears.
Okay.
We'd have to see the tree to know exactly what it is.
Okay. If you had to see, how would we go there?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, because walking there will take 20 minutes.
You're right.
So,
I mean, if you get back over there sometime, you can just take a picture and send it to me.
okay, I will send that picture to you because I have about 500 of those small saplings growing right now. Very soon it will be a forest. If it is a valuable tree, I'll keep it. Otherwise, I'll knock them out.
Well, is it similar to that tree right there? The little one right here in front of us?
We have some of that, but this one is unique. It has got slightly yellowish orange edges on the leaf, and the leaf is oval in shape, this big. I have at least 50 of them there.
Maybe, but how big are the leaves?
This big.